Very good, thank you. There's so much to do here. It has become one of the most significant places that people love to come, eat, and socialize and have a good time.
Yes, say what they want. The restaurant's yours. We're closed except for you.
I know, it does seem a little weird.
Where did you move from?
Arkansas?
My name is Stephanie Halley. I am the Executive Director of the Women's Industrial Exchange. And on behalf of our team of folks who work here in the shop, of Irene and her staff who head up the kitchen, and our board of directors, and the many folks who support us, we welcome you. So just a little bit about our history. We've been around for a while. 1880, in fact. We've been around since 1880. I challenge you to find another nonprofit that's been around that long. There aren't very many of them, I can tell you. Not that many can last quite that long, but we're a strong lady. We are a strong lady. So in 1880, it was shortly after the Civil War. Men either had not come home from war, or they came home missing limbs, much less able to provide, brain injuries, and they were having trouble putting food on the table. So the women in our city looked around and said, what are we going to do? How are we going to make ends meet? How am I going to feed my children? How am I going to pay this mortgage? How am I going to get by? And they did not have, as you may have heard, they did not have the type of opportunities that we have today. Today, I can start my own business. Today, I can go out and get one of many different types of jobs. But then, that just wasn't the case. And so they looked around and they were trying to come up with an idea. And a woman by the name of Mrs. Harmon Brown gathered about 20 women in her home. And she said, you know what? You do really good crocheting. And you are an excellent quilter. And your preserves, everybody loves your preserves that you make. And so what we're going to do is we're going to sell them. This thing that we do, right? These skills that we have, we're going to use them and we're going to make money with them to feed our families. And out of those 20 women, 15 people said, nope, that's illegal. We're not allowed to do that in this day and age. And they walked out the door. And five women standing said, desperate times, desperate measures. We're going to do this anyway. So Mrs. Harmon Brown said, we're going to use my house. We're going to do it secretly. I'm not going to tell anybody whose things they are that I'm selling. So she was protecting everybody else, and she took on that risk. And they started selling out of her kind of Tupperware-like, right? They started selling out of her living room. And before you knew it, it was boom. People were flocking to get the things that she was selling because they were good. Because we make good things, don't we? And they were, and other women started to flock to her and say, you know what? Maybe you should sell my things. maybe now I'll try it. And so people were flocking to her home, and soon it got too big for her living room. And with very shortly, right around the corner, Saratoga and Holiday Streets, they opened a shop. They opened a storefront. And people came, and more people came. And by the end of the 1887, they moved into this building. They opened the shop in the building. And by the end of the decade, they started in 1880, and by the end of the decade, in 1889, they bought this building. Those women made enough things, gathered enough funds to purchase this very building. How wonderful. How wonderful. And so, that was the beginning, right? That was the beginning of our history. So we've been in this great building, this great lady for a long time. And what's happened in this building is that through time, as you can see, you walk through our shop and we invite you to shop fast before you get on the bus. What you'll see in there is exactly what you would have seen, maybe different products. But similarly, as if you would have been here 100 years ago, there are things that are made from our people. I say our, I don't make a thing out there. I wish I could. My grandmother, my mother, many people I know and love do. I don't have to. But we've got a lot of great women who do. And you'll see the types of things that we make with our hands. And you'll see the value that they have. And you'll appreciate it. I'm a great appreciator of what we make with our hands. And so we've been doing this through the years. Just recently, I'll say, so we've had a shop here for years, and not too long after that, they decided to open a tea room, right? And so in this space, and in the upstairs space that we have, people used to come to tea. They said, if they're gonna come to shop, let's feed them while they're here. And so in the day, it was a tea room, and I mean like white glove tea room. And the who's who of Baltimore City was seen here. And reporters have a lunch counter downstairs. Reporters would hang out on the lunch counter, and they would see who would walk and who would come in and out of the Women's Industrial Exchange. We have guest books that have names of unbelievable people who would come to town and tea at the Women's Industrial Exchange. How fun. So the tea room stayed open for a number of years, and then something happened in about 1929, which you may know a little bit about. Things tanked. And people weren't coming to tea anymore. People weren't spending money, they weren't getting dressed up, they were trying to figure out how to get through the day. And so the folks who ran the tea room said, okay, we're going to close up shop. And there was a group of women, and for those of you who are on this side, you can't see, but those of you who are on this side, there's a picture right here above the fireplace of a group of women. At the time, those women were in their teens. They're not in their teens in this picture. You'll have to take a look on the way out. At the time, those women in their teens, and they were working in the back in the kitchen. They were dishwashers. And as the crew who was running the place went out, they said, I don't think we're done here. I don't think we're done here. Times change, people change, we should change. So what should we do? People still need food. They just need a different kind of eating and dining experience. They need chicken salad. They need tomato acid. They need soup. They need real people's food at real people's prices. And they changed the exchange and opened the lunchroom. And here you sit in the lunchroom, right? And these women worked from the time they made that decision until into their 80s and some of them 90s. The same group of women worked together. That to me is why I get out of bed. That to me is worth celebrating. And that to me is worth the next 33 years of this place. We're doing something right. So we thank you so much for being